What's the issue here, Gavan?
The issue is that the rules that currently surround short-term lettings apparently are not being observed or enforced in full. The situation as it currently stands is that if you are selling a property or letting a property for fewer than 90 days per year, you don't need planning permission, but you are required to get a formal exemption from your local authority. And if you are letting it out for more than 90 days a year, you're required to get planning permission for that change. Now, the issue is that that isn't always being complied with. And there are concerns that, for example, if you go to the likes of Airbnb right now and compare the number of full properties that are available for letting at any time, and compare that with properties on daft.ie for full-time lettings, for full tenancies, that there's a huge mismatch. The concerns basically are that there are more properties being made available for short-term letting than there actually are for full-time tenants, which could go some way towards easing the accommodation crisis. Now, Sinn Féin this evening going to be bringing legislation to try and address that. They are not proposing to change the rules as they currently are, but rather just make it criminal for the likes of Airbnb to rent a property without, first of all, being assured that it's in compliance with the law.
Let's be very clear, the crisis in the private rental sector hasn't been caused by short-term letting. There are much bigger and deeper structural factors driving that crisis. But it simply makes no sense that you can have 5, 6 or 7 times more short-term lets on Airbnb on a given day in almost every county in the state compared to long-term rentals on daft.ie. If the regulations as they currently stand were enforced, like I say, it would facilitate genuine peer-to-peer home sharing. Nobody wants to stop somebody making a few extra quid to pay a mortgage or pay for their own holiday. But anybody engaged in commercial short-term letting should be compliant. And I think if we enforce those regulations, you would see some of those properties, we don't know how many, transfer into the long-term rental sector.
So the intention behind this legislation, if it were passed, would be that local authorities would be empowered to fine the property owners if they were allowing their properties to be used in short-term lettings without being in compliance with the full planning laws. The government says it's not going to oppose this bill. It says that there are similar proposals in the government's own agenda to try and clamp down on short-term letting, or to make sure at least that all lettings are in compliance with the legal framework. But the opposition say this is something which the government has actually been promising for several years. They say even before Darragh O'Brien was in office, which is now almost 2 years, that Eoin Murphy was promising similar moves and that nothing ever came to pass. So they are hoping that the government will take this legislation on board so the problem can be addressed a little more quickly.